Hi guys, what follows in this video is a description of a simple method to install EasyOS to a computer, in particular an old computer. I do plan to make some more on different methods. Firstly though, I'd like to just point out this legal statement. If you go to easyos.org/about legal disclaimers miscellanea.html, I want to point this out because I think it's necessary for us to be aware of the legal situation these days. Particularly this last paragraph here. Regarding responsibility for what has been uploaded for distribution on the internet, although Barry has acted in good faith, there is a complete disclaimer of responsibility. This applies to everything, including code and documentation. You download and use Easy Linux with this understanding. Now that will also include this video, okay, describing an installation method. If you install EasyOS on your computer, maybe even if it's a very old computer, and it blows up and your house burns down, you can't blame me, okay? So you're doing this entirely with your own responsibility. So the other thing is, before we get going, what you would do on this old computer is you would boot up EasyOS on a USB flash drive. So you've got EasyOS running on the old computer, but on a flash drive externally. Okay, so that would be your first hurdle. Excuse me. Well, let's go. Let's get stuck into it. Hi guys. This time I would like to show you the easiest way to install EasyOS onto a computer or into a computer. Absolute easiest way. There are some caveats though. There always are, of course. This method will require that you take over the entire hard drive, that you will erase everything else that's on it. So if you've got an old Windows installed on it, this will wipe it all out and the whole drive will just be EasyOS. But this is absolutely the easiest way of doing it. Now I'd like to talk about what kind of computers you can do this on. Back in 2018, I picked up hold on, I've got it down here. There we go. I picked this up from the road verge. It was being thrown out. That was in 2018. I don't have it anymore, unfortunately. It's a compact Presario. Lovely computer. I really loved it. I had about a year ago, I had several computers, and I've now reduced down to just 2 laptops because I'm going to be travelling around. And unfortunately, this one had to go as well. Lovely thing. And the thing is, what happens is that people throw these things out. This was in a fairly affluent neighbourhood. I was walking a dog. If you want to read this, you can just go to my bkhome.org/news 2018-11. So just if you scroll back in my blog, you can find this. Just go to bkhome.org/news, and there's actually an archive page that you can see on that where it lists all the. I might as well show you, I suppose. I've got to be careful this video doesn't get too long. But if I go to bkhome.org news, you can just go to history. There we go. That's what I wanted to show you. And just scroll back to 2018 November, and you can find it. Okay. And the specifications on it, here we go. It only has 2 gigabytes of RAM and a 500 gigabyte hard drive. Now I installed EasyOS. I'm going to show you how you can install EasyOS in a situation like that and take over the entire hard drive. The only thing you have to do after that is figure out how to boot it up. You've got to set the UEFI or the BIOS. I explained that in an earlier video. You've got to know what hotkey to press, and it goes into the BIOS setup, and then you choose which operating system you want to boot. Well, there'll only be one anyway, so it should boot up anyway, regardless, even if you don't do anything in the BIOS setup. Okay, all right. Now, with 2 gigabytes of RAM, that's not much, of course. So I will make one little statement that you really need to have what's called a Linux swap partition as well. Because there's not much RAM, the operating system will like to put some files out onto the hard drive, and it does this in what's called a swap partition. I would say it's pretty much essential for such an old computer with such a small amount of RAM. As you get to more RAM though, a swap partition becomes less necessary. If you've got like 8 gigabytes of RAM, even 4 gigabytes, I would say that a swap partition is not required. But right down here, maybe 4 gigabytes is touch and go. Probably a swap partition about the same size as the RAM would do the job nicely. Okay, we'll get on to that. So that's the only thing, and it should just boot up. I'll just show you how to do it. Okay, let's pretend. What else have I got here? Oh yeah, all right. What kind of computer? What's the oldest computer that you can have that EasyOS will run on? I made a note on another page, easyos.org, about how and why EasyOS is different. And down the bottom there, it states there that Easy runs on modern UEFI firmware computers. That's a modern type of BIOS, which is all Windows PCs manufactured from 2012 onwards have this kind of BIOS, but is also dedicated to supporting old BIOS computers. The minimum requirement is that it must have a 64-bit CPU. There are older ones that just had a 32-bit CPU. They won't work. Okay, now a bit further down here, must have at least 2 gigabytes of RAM, and the drive must have a swap partition, okay, with such a small amount of RAM. And the old computers had expansion slots. You can put in extra cards. It's got to have what's called the PCI or PCIe expansion slot. There are older computers that have a different kind of expansion slot, and that's going back a long way. Probably unlikely to have one of those, ISA or EISA. The PCIe, in case you've got a desktop computer and you're not sure, I did look up on the internet here. Here we go, some snapshots. This is what the PCIe and PCI sockets look like. So you can do a search with Google just to find a picture like that. And then you can look inside your computer and see whether it does have that kind of socket. Highly likely it will. Okay, so that's kind of the oldest computer that you can run on. And I also mentioned there that the monitor size, at least 800 by 600 pixels. That's really minimal though. Much better is 1024 by 768, and that's pretty common in old computers. Even there, sometimes you'll get a window that's bigger than the screen, but you can drag a window around. I mentioned in an earlier video that you can just hold down the Alt key, and when you do that, you can drag a window around. So if it's going off the screen, you can drag it up a bit and see the rest of it. Okay, all right. Now I've got another website here which explains a case study. This is another computer that I no longer have. So if you go to easyos.org/install, you'll find some tutorials. And this particular one is how to install EasyOS on a new SSD, or any old hard drive for that matter. Could be a magnetic platter or a SSD. Now I had a little Melee mini PC which it had some inbuilt flash memory, but it had an expansion slot which is actually a SATA, what they call a SATA expansion slot, and you could put on an external SSD, which is this thing here. So I plugged in this external SSD and I installed EasyOS to it. So that's basically what we're going to be doing here. So although it already had a little flash memory inside, I added a separate SSD. And then you can use, in the BIOS setup, you can choose which one of these two you want to boot up from. So even if you've got a desktop computer with a hard drive already in it, if you've got a capability of adding in an extra hard drive, like I've done here, then you can do that, and then just install EasyOS on that entire hard drive. Okay, so you've got a choice. The original hard drive that's built in, well, not the solid state drive that's built into this computer, I could have installed EasyOS on that, but I wanted to keep that intact, what was already in there. It was actually running Windows. Okay. Right, so let's do it. I've already downloaded the latest version of EasyOS, the drive image file, which is here. And the quick way to bring up a terminal at the same location is just to push the backtick key. There you go on the keyboard. And there we go. Terminal has opened at that same location. Now, let us just pretend this little tiny little where are we? This little Lexar. I've spoken about this in the past. This is a cheap little 32 gigabyte, very cheap. It was 13 Australian dollars, which is probably about like 10 US dollars. Okay, so I don't normally recommend using such a cheap one because they have a very minimal kind of controller chip in them. But anyway, it's so far so good. I've been using it a little bit. Now, we'll pretend that this is an internal drive. I'm going to actually plug it into the USB socket, but let's just pretend this is an internal drive, okay? And we'll just write to it as though it is an internal drive. All right, so let's do that. I'll plug it in. Now, we've already been through this exercise. Okay, it should appear down the bottom there. If we look, there it is, okay? In one of the earlier, I forget which video it was, I showed how to install EasyOS to a flash drive. So we did exactly the same thing, and that's what we're going to do again. So, with a slight difference. So let's run that EasyDD utility, and then Easy, so there it is. And I mentioned before that it also has a graphical interface. You'll find it in the menu. You can run EasyDD in its graphical mode. This is just running it in terminal mode. Okay. Okay. We have plugged in the drive. Select SDA. Okay. That's the Lexar. Yep. SDA definitely. Let it run. I mentioned before that it's not too bad. As you can see, I reckon that if it's less than 7 megabytes per second, it's a bit too slow. But this one is actually doing all right. It does keep slowing down a little bit. So you'll get down to about 8, I think, it came down to before. It's taking a while. Now what I'm going to do differently this time, when we've written it to the flash drive. Now normally what will happen is that when you boot up the first time, it will automatically increase the second partition. I've been through this before, so you can go back and reference that information. It will automatically increase the second partition to fill the entire 32 gigabyte flash drive. However, this time what we're going to do is we're going to do it now. We're going to manually increase it to the full size and also create a little swap partition. So we're pretending that this is actually an internal drive. It could be a magnetic platter drive, or it could be an SSD that you've added into the desktop computer. Of course, if it's an old computer, it will have a magnetic platter, what we call an HDD hard drive. So it's very slow, so I've got to keep talking, fill in the time. Yes, okay. And again, you can see I'm using the phone cam, my Motorola G75 phone, because I'm getting a better quality of video. Okay. This is where I probably should edit the video and just chop a little bit out. I haven't been much into editing videos so far, well, not at all really. I had a little play with Shotcut and wasn't really very enamoured with it. Anyway, I might try one of the others. But in theory, oh, there we go. Okay, I got there. And what it will do now is it's going to read back. It will flush the cache, which is already done. It has flushed the cache, so it will read back from the flash drive and verify that it has written correctly. Okay. Now notice up there it got down to 8 megabytes per second. Yeah. Okay, so that's correct. Right. So let's just okay, and I'll just unplug it. It does automatically refresh, but I'm a little bit paranoid. I'm going to unplug it and replug it. Hold on. Unplug it and replug it to be sure we've updated. Although I must emphasise that it should have done it automatically anyway. Okay. Now, that second partition. So the first partition is a fat partition. It's got the Lime bootloader. Now that will boot up on either an old BIOS computer or a more modern UEFI type. It's dual purpose. It'll boot up on either. Okay. So let's not dwell on that for too long. Now, if we mouse over there, you'll see it's only 1 gigabyte in size. And as I said before, it will automatically increase to fill the whole drive. But we're going to do it right now. Oops, hold on, cancel, unmount. What we're going to do is go into the got to remember where I put it. I thought I put it in there. System. Gpart, that's where I put it. I remember I moved it out to a different part of the menu. Gpart head is the partition manager. Okay. And SDA is the one we want to work on. Okay, so we do that. Okay. Right. Now, let's see what we've got here. That second one, what we will do is increase it to fill the drive. So it won't have to happen at the first boot up at all because we are doing it now. So let's right click, resize move, and let's increase it to fill the drive, but we'll leave a little bit at the end. Okay, this is thereabouts, so it doesn't matter too much. There we go. So we're just leaving a little bit at the end there. We're going to put the swap partition at the end. Okay, so everything is okay. So resize move, and we let it. Now it might take a little while. Oh yeah, and apply. Okay, it was quick. Okay, all right. Right. Now at the end there, okay, that there unallocated, we'll create a swap partition. Right click, new, and we're going to create Linux swap. There it is. And I don't know if I really need to leave any space at the end there. You could do if you want to. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It's good to have a size that's well, it doesn't matter so much, but yeah, let's not worry about the size too much. Okay, you could even give it a label if you want. Okay, and there we go, Linux swap partition. Just my habit, I leave a little bit at the end, it doesn't matter anyway. And there we go, and click on that arrow to do it, to apply it, and there we go. And there we are. So in the first partition we've got a FAT16, that's the boot partition. And you can see the flags on it. It's actually flagged as a boot partition, and also what's called an ESP. That's for booting on the UEFI type computers. And then of course there's a main file system now, which is growing up to 26.78 gigabytes. And we've added this little Linux swap partition. And that is it. We've done it. Okay. Mouse over, and it's telling us. It updated automatically. So it's telling us now it's got that much space in that partition. And we've installed it. Now all you have to do is just reboot. Hold down the hotkey when you boot up. Now, one thing though, with a Windows computer, now I don't know when they started it. I don't know what version of Windows they started it, but they, no, actually they started with UEFI, that's right. UEFI started, they introduced what's called Secure Boot. And when you go into this UEFI setup, you've got to disable Secure Boot. And you'll find it in there. So disable Secure Boot, It's just a checkbox, that's all. And then choose, and you'll find the options of different operating systems to boot. Well, it will only find the one anyway, if it's only the one hard drive. So you choose that, and then it will remember that for the future. And that's it, and you'll boot up and you'll have a desktop. Just like you're seeing now, you'll have EasyOS running. And that's it, installed. So that's, if you want to get rid of everything else, of course, that's the big qualification there. Just EasyOS running the whole computer, but it transforms. An old computer that is sluggish, it's got old Windows XP or whatever, and you're unable to update it, it's no longer supported by Microsoft, it'll transform the computer. You're running the latest software, you're running a browser with security updates. Great, really great. That old compact Presario, it really transformed it. Everything ran fast. It was amazing how fast everything ran. So anyway, I'm babbling, so let's stop.